What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Trial of X era of X-Men comics, but at the same time, we're not continuing our coverage over the Trial of X era of X-Men comics. And the reason why I said that very confusing opening is because we're covering the Phoenix song Echo. Now, when it comes to the Phoenix song Echo, it's not really an X-Men book, but it is borrowing a concept from the X-Men books. And what I mean by that is this storyline is all about Echo becoming the new Phoenix. Now remember, the Phoenix is usually involved with the X-Men. Usually anytime the Phoenix comes to Earth, 9 out of 10 times, the X-Men are the ones who are handling that problem. You may find a story here and there where it's not the X-Men dealing with the Phoenix, but those stories are very rare. Like this one, where it's Echo, this character from Hell's Kitchen, getting the powers of the Phoenix. Yes, you do have an X-Men character in this book. Yes, he does play a major role in this book, but again, it's not really an X-Men book, but it is kind of required to read before we jump into later books for the X-Men titles. And so with that, we're going to cover Phoenix Song Echo today in today's video. Now, if you're new to Marvel Comics and you have no idea who Echo is, well, here is a quick rundown. Echo first appeared back in Daredevil comics. With that being said, she fought alongside with Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen. Now, what made her a very interesting character to a lot of fans of Marvel Comics was that she is deaf. It was kind of cool because it was a new take on the idea of Daredevil. Because remember, Daredevil is blind. Thanks to his accident, his other senses were enhanced. And so when it comes to Maya Lopez, aka Echo, she is deaf. It takes a new disability and kind of use it as a way to make a character interesting in Marvel Comics, and that is Echo. She's deaf, but she's still a very good crime fighter in Hell's Kitchen. But just recently, and I want to say in Jason Aaron's Avengers run, she got the powers of the Phoenix. And so at this point in Marvel Comics, she is the new Phoenix of Marvel Comics. Now, in the opening pages of this book, it's really doing us a favor. And what I mean by that is, it's reminding us what happens usually to people who become the Phoenix and they try to use the powers of the Phoenix on Earth. That most of the time they can control the power of the Phoenix. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to the Phoenix, it's better known as the Phoenix Force. Now remember, the Phoenix Force is actually a cosmic being, but on top of that, it represents creation and destruction. But it's also connected to every single universe in the multiverse. That's how powerful it is, meaning that almost every single universe may or may not have a host of the Phoenix in those respected universes. Now, when it comes to this universe, we know right now currently it is Echo. But usually when someone becomes a host for the Phoenix Force, they can't really control the powers of the Phoenix. And so right now, we see Maya Lopez in Hell's Kitchen trying to stop a group of thugs from actually robbing this store. Now, when she does go in there, here's the problem. One thug tries to knock her out from behind, but she realized what was about to happen. And so she turns around, she uses the powers of the Phoenix, which ends up killing that guy completely. He has been murdered off. But the thing is, Maya Lopez doesn't care. She wants to continue to stop these thugs from robbing this store. Now, because she's using the powers of the Phoenix, she does set the building she's in on fire. And there were people who were living in that building right above the store. And so now they're trapped inside their apartments because, thanks to Maya Lopez, a fire has started. Now, the problem is, though, when she does go try to help different people out, like a small little girl, the girl knows that she is the reason why this fire had technically started. Because when Maya appeared, she's surrounded by flames. talking about, here, grab my hand, I'll get you out of here. But the girl knows it's her fault that this fire has started in the building. And so she's too scared to go with Maya Lopez. And so now it's Echo realizing, oh my gosh, I went in here to stop a group of thugs. I lost control. I killed somebody. But on top of that, I set a building on fire. And these people may lose their homes now. Now, luckily, as she leaves, the firefighters do come in. They're able to get the girl out. And we're kind of left to believe they do put the fire out as well. But the problem is, though, we do not get confirmation on that. But while you have Maya Lopez leaving, she is confronted by somebody else. And so we come to find out that she was confronted by Elektra. Now, at this point in Marvel Comics, Elektra was the current Daredevil. And I want to say she still is, along with Matt Murdock also being Daredevil. I could be wrong. Either way, though, it's Elektra right now very upset because she's trying to protect Hell's Kitchen. But the problem is, though, you have Echo going around killing people, but also setting a building on fire. Now, at first, you do have Maya Lopez kind of tell Elektra that the guy she killed kind of deserved it for two reasons. One, because he was a thug, and two, he tried to kill her. But for Elektra, she's kind of like, no, if you're going to be a hero, you know the number one rule. We don't kill at all. And so here you are right now in Hell's Kitchen killing people. But on top of that, you now have all those people in that building most likely lost their home because you set that building on fire. And so this is Elektra trying to take down Echo, but not realizing that Echo right now has the powers of the Phoenix, and Elektra will technically lose so easily. But you didn't have Maya Lopez kind of realize what she did was wrong. She did kill somebody, and now a bunch of people have lost their homes. And so she's so upset, she does not want to fight Elektra. She actually leaves and flies away. Now, as she is flying away, you do have Elektra kind of call her a scaredy cat, but at the same time, as she's flying away, she does fly over two particular areas, and we do see two guys who are going to be very important for this storyline. The first one is Forge, and Forge realized, oh my gosh, the Phoenix is back. And Forge knows if the Phoenix is back, that usually means trouble is soon to come. But on top of that, as she flies around the world, she does fly over the Great Plains, where we are introduced to another character that's going to be very important for this storyline. And so we then see Echo actually go to the moon. Now, when she does go to the moon, this is really more of Maya kind of thinking about the different things on her mind currently at the moment. Like, for example, why did the Phoenix choose her? On top of that, what can she do with the powers of the Phoenix? And she also feels bad about what she did earlier with the powers of the Phoenix in Hell's Kitchen. Now, while she is thinking, that is the moment she is contacted by Brew. Now, Brew is a character we actually talked a lot about on this channel, but for right now, he's honestly not that important. The only thing you need to know is that he's part of an alien race known as the Brood that goes around kind of infecting people and putting their eggs inside people. Yeah, it gets really weird. Either way, Brew is right now in charge of that alien race. But the reason why he's contacting Maya is because he had just picked up some kind of Phoenix signature on Earth. And he's kind of like, listen, you are the Phoenix, and so I'm very confused on how in the world I'm picking up two different signatures of energy that's very similar to the Phoenix energy. While you're on the moon, someone else with that similar kind of energy is being picked up on Earth on a particular island. I need you to go check on and see what in the world is going on. Now, we do see Maya actually go down to Earth. She does go to that island where Brood had picked up some kind of energy signature that's very similar to Phoenix energy, but that is the moment she is confronted by Forge. Now remember, earlier we saw she flew over Krakoa, and Forge saw her fly over the island. And so this is Forge kind of expressing the idea that he's very worried about her being the new Phoenix. Because usually, like I said earlier, when someone becomes the host of the Phoenix, 9 out of 10 times, they cannot control the powers of the Phoenix. And they do a whole lot of horrible things to the people around them and also to the planet. And so this is Forge coming to Echo saying, listen, I am one of the X-Men, and we have dealt with the Phoenix so many times. Let me show you some examples to show you how powerful the Phoenix is and how bad it is for you to have the power inside of you. And so he does kind of show Echo the highlights of different hosts throughout the years in X-Men comics that held the power of the Phoenix doing bad things. But while you have Echo go inside this building to watch the highlights, this container, but as she went inside this container to watch the bad highlights of the Phoenix, Forge exits the container, he closes the door and tries to trap her underground because he felt like he had built something that can actually contain the Phoenix, that can contain Echo. And the reason why he did that, because he wants to find a way to help remove the Phoenix away from Echo, because Forge knows that usually when the Phoenix appears, a whole lot of mess is about to happen. And he's trying to skip the mess to the solution so that everybody can have a normal day. But the problem is, though, his container that he made to hold Echo and the Phoenix inside of, it's not strong enough to hold Echo and the Phoenix. And so she does pop right back out. And she's very upset with what he tried to do. And so he does basically realize that he gone and messed up. And so she flies away. But before she does blow up his container and tell him, do not come after me ever again. You are a jerk. And she flies away. Now, after that, you have Echo wanting to talk to somebody about her problems. But there is one particular person she used to talk to that lives on a reservation for Native Americans, this elderly person. Except the problem is, though, when she gets to that city, she looks around for him. She can't find him at all. Now, she does run into his grandson. Now, at first, she has no idea it is his grandson, but she does ask, where can she find this elderly person? And his grandson tells her, oh, my granddad? Yeah, he died a while back. But listen, I think I can help you out more. I know what's going on with you, but you and I must meet up at my house, and then I can tell you everything I know about you and what you are carrying and how I can actually help you. And so for Maya, she's kind of like, I have no choice here. I came here for your granddad, but he died. So sure, I'll go ahead and meet up with you at your house. Now, we are going to learn his name very soon here, but for right now, he does seem to be just some random guy. And so we do actually see her go over to this guy's particular house. Now, when she does go over to his house, she does get there a tad bit too early. And the reason why I'm telling you that, because when she arrives at his house, she does get blasted by some kind of security system. Now, right after she does get hit, she does get very angry because she was just attacked by some unknown security system around this house. And honestly, that's a very bad thing to make her angry, because right now she's holding the powers of the Phoenix. But luckily, you do have our new mysterious guy walk outside his house and say, yo, calm down. It's your fault. I told you to be here at 6. You came here at 5:30. I did not have time to turn off the security system so that you would not get blasted. Either way, come inside and sit down with me so that we can actually talk. And so you do have our two characters actually go inside this guy's house. Now, when they go inside his house, that is the moment we learn his name. And his name is River. Now, it's short for River Walker, but we're going to call him River for this story. Now, the reason why he wanted to sit down and talk to Echo even more, because he knows why the Phoenix had actually chose her. Because remember, Echo kind of wondered why in the world did the Phoenix choose her for, because she feels like she's not special enough to take on the powers of the Phoenix. But then you have River tell Echo, well, the reason why the Phoenix chose you because you guys are going to help each other to actually defeat a bad guy, somebody who's after her, the Phoenix. He wants to absorb her energy. But you need to work with the powers of the Phoenix to actually defeat this guy. Now, that is the moment you do have River kind of tell Echo about his powers. Now, when it comes to his powers, he has the ability to touch you and then look back at different points in time and learn a lot about your ancestors. And so it's kind of a way for you to learn more about your family history through him. And so as soon as he touches you, he can look back to a certain point, one of your ancestors, and tell you different facts about that ancestor. Now, the reason why he has that power is somewhat important for this storyline, but technically the reason why he's telling her about his powers is because he's kind of like, listen, I know that you come from a strong line of strong, powerful warrior females. But the problem is, though, one of those ancestors can actually teach you how to help you control the powers of the Phoenix to actually help you defeat our unknown bad guy, which means that we have to find that certain ancestor who can actually help you defeat the guy who wants the powers of the Phoenix. Now, as we get into the second chapter of this storyline, we kind of use the opening pages as a way for us to kind of learn more about the origin of Riverwalker, because he is a newer character that really we have no idea where he came from. But in the opening pages, we do learn that how his parents died, because one day while him and his parents were leaving a amusement park, they were just driving down the street until they were struck by an 18-wheeler truck. Now, of course, his parents died, but here comes the strange part though. He was left unharmed. He was in the car, but when they pulled him out of the car, there were no scratches at all. And the question is though, why? And he says he found out later on why he was spared, but also spared with no kind of injuries, because then some kind of powerful being was watching over him, but a very powerful dark being. And so after that, we do learn that when it came to young River, after that car accident, he was adopted by his grandparents. Now, with that being said, at first, in the daytime, everything was going easy for him. He had fun. He was always learning. He loved his grandparents. But at night, that was when things got really bad for him, because that was the moment he would be confronted by this dark, powerful being. And this dark, powerful being would take many different forms as a way to actually talk to young River. Now, the reason why this creature, this being, is talking to young River, because he knows what's going to happen in the future, or what could happen in the future. And what I mean by that is this dark, powerful being tells young River that he has been locked away in another dimension, but he always has been trying to come into this dimension and kind of course, reshape the universe in his image. The problem is, though, even if he does come over to this dimension, he still needs the power to actually pull off the idea of changing the universe in his own image. And so this dark, powerful being does tell young River, listen very carefully. In the future, you are going to be visited by a girl named Maya Lopez, and she'll have the powers of the Phoenix, and she will be looking for help, and you will help her to come to me, so that I'll be able to take the powers of the Phoenix and reshape the universe in my own image. Now, at first, young River does not want to do that at all, but then you have this dark, powerful being take a shape of his mother and tell him, if you help me, I can bring her back to life. I can bring your father back to life. Because remember, they died. They're gone. And so he's with his grandparents right now. But he does miss his parents so much. And so it's the dark, powerful being kind of like, I know and you want your parents back. And so if you help me and I'm able to reshape the universe in my own image, then I can bring your parents back to life. And that what got young River hooked. But over the years, he realized that he had made a mistake, that he actually does not want to help this dark, powerful being. And so back in the present day, we come to find out that our dark, powerful creature is already here. He's about to go inside the house of River to hopefully drain the power of the Phoenix away from Echo. Now, inside the house, you do have Echo kind of freaking out because she just learned a whole lot about herself from River, that the idea that some powerful dark cosmic being is about to come after her to absorb the powers of the Phoenix. But while you have the two characters actually talking to one another, well, that is the moment you do have our dark mysterious being blast open the door. Now, when he does, Echo wants to fight. But when it comes to River, he's like, no, you're not ready. We have to go now. But when he grabs Echo, that is when his powers actually evolve somewhat. And what I mean by that is, remember, when it came to River, he only had the ability to kind of look back at different points in times when it came to your ancestors so that he's able to tell you different facts about your ancestors. And that is it. But now he's actually able to time travel back to those points. And so it's kind of like a live lesson for you to learn more about your ancestors. But at the same time, he needs that power because with that power right there, maybe he'll find a way with Echo that can help them actually defeat this dark, powerful being. And so when they go through a portal, they're going back in time right now. Now, before we go farther into the story, I do want to mention one thing, that I kind of like the idea that we have different artists for this book. And the reason why I'm saying that, because every single time they go to a different point in time, we're going to have a different artist kind of take over that section of the book, which honestly, I kind of like that idea because you give more artists the ability to kind of show off their talents to the world. Either way, we can confirm that Maya, Echo, and also River, they have gone back in time. The question is, though, how far back in time did they go? And on top of that, who are they going to see who is related to her? Because remember, when it comes to River, originally he could touch you and tell you facts about your different ancestors and different points in time in the past. But now it seems like he has the ability to time travel to those different points in times to where your ancestors are actually at. And so it's kind of like a live history lesson. But while they're walking around, they do see that a club right now is kind of packed and there is a long line to get inside the club. But that is the moment when they walk past the club, she sees her father and she's like, oh my gosh, we went so far back in time. My dad is still alive, but it seems like he's not with my mother just yet. But either way, right now, she just saw her dad and she wants to follow him inside the club, which they do. Now, once they do get inside the club, you then have River tell Maya that this is a bad idea. And what he means by that is Maya wants to actually confront her father, especially when she realized that her father came to this club to talk to a particular waitress. And that waitress is her mother. Now, for River, he's kind of like, the reason why this is a bad idea, because remember, basic knowledge of time travel. If you go back in time, don't do anything in that time period because you could possibly affect the future. And so this is River saying, if you go over there right now and talk to your mother and father about the idea of you, and we have no idea how far they're in their relationship, you could ruin everything for you, but also change things in the future for other people as well. And so you do have River try to convince Maya this is a bad idea. Now, unfortunately, Maya does run into her mother, and they do have a brief conversation. And this is huge because when it comes to Maya, she never had the chance to actually learn more about her mother, to be with her mother. Her mother died at a very young age. And so for Maya, this is a very huge moment. The problem is, though, someone had followed them to this time period. And we come to find out that the powerful dark being had actually followed Echo and River to this time point. And so when he appears, he kills off Echo's parents just like that. And that is a huge problem, because then you have River tell Echo, one, they can't stay here, but two, they can't go back to the present day. And the reason why, because if your mom and dad are dead right now, that means in the future, you no longer exist, which means that if we go back to the future, you are going to disappear. And so we have to keep going back in time to find this certain person who could actually help you in the Phoenix find a way to defeat this guy so that you'll be able to fix all mistakes that he has done to the timeline. But either way, we have to get out of here, because if we stay here, one, we're going to lose, and two, we can go into the future. And so once again, they have to use River's powers to time travel, but once again, back in time even farther. Except this time, when they time travel back, they do travel back in time, but a whole lot farther in time, to the point that they now arrive in Oklahoma, but they're also surrounded by a bunch of men with guns who want to shoot them down, because these two guys just appeared out of nowhere, out of the sky, and crashed right next to them. And so these guys with guns are like, we have no idea who you are or what you are, but if you move, we will shoot you right here and now. And so getting into the third chapter of this book, we actually do pick up with Forge. Now, this is Forge still trying to track down Echo, because he feels like it's a bad idea for her to have the powers of the Phoenix inside of her. And so he's hoping to find her and hopefully get rid of the Phoenix inside of her. Except the problem is, though, after trying to track her down, going to the same city that River is actually from, and then finding his house, when he walks into the house, he realized that the house has been attacked, that something bad happened here. And of course, when he walks into the house, he realized that he senses some kind of energy that he has not sensed in a very long time. And of course, it's the energy of our mysterious bad guy of this book, because our mysterious bad guy of this book has connections with Forge. And what I mean by that is, in the early days of Marvel Comics, when it came to Forge first showing up in X-Men comics, he had his own bad guy, and that bad guy is Adversary. And Adversary is this cosmic being from another dimension. Now, something else I do want to mention is that when it comes to Forge, Forge is Native American. And so this whole book is really about Native American culture in a lot of different aspects. But with that being said, because Forge kind of left behind his fellow Native Americans when it came to dealing with Adversary, Adversary would come back so many times until Forge had to make some ultimate sacrifice to keep Adversary in his dimension so that he would not come over to Earth's dimension. But as soon as Forge walked into this room, he realized, oh my God, Adversary is back and this is a problem. I have to find a way to help her defeat this guy, because he could be an actual problem. And so getting back over to Echo and also River, we kind of find out that they have traveled all the way back to the 1850s. But on top of that, right now, they're surrounded by some Native Americans who want to know what is the deal with their powers and also appearing out of nowhere. Now, the big question is for her, who is here right now that she is connected to? And so while they're kind of trying to calm everybody down, that is the moment she sees her great-great-grandmother. And so now it's time for her to bond with her great-great-grandmother. Except the problem is, though, she speaks a language that Maya does not speak at all, which means right off the bat, she is going to have a very difficult time actually understanding what she is saying. Luckily for her, River knows how to communicate with her great-great-grandmother. Now, this is a huge moment for Echo, and the reason why, because she had no idea that there were some Native American in her family line. In her eyes, she was just Hispanic, but then she comes to find out that apparently her great-great-grandmother is actually Native American, which is very huge for her because now she knows more about her family culture. Now, of course, with that being said, though, she still can't understand what her grandmother is actually saying. Sorry, her great-great-grandmother, because she's talking Choctaw, and of course, for Echo, she never learned that. And so luckily for her, River did learn that. And so he's actually able to communicate with her and kind of tell Echo what she's actually saying. Now, while this conversation is going on, like I said earlier, this is a huge moment for Echo because we have to remember her mom died at a very young age when she was a very young age. And so Echo never got the chance to actually learn where her mom's side actually came from. And so now she's learning more and more about her mom's side's culture and now learning that, hey, your mom and you come from a Native American line. This is a great thing for you. The problem is, though, while they're talking to one another, Adversary does appear again and wipes out her family, which means that now they have to go even farther back in time to hopefully defeat him so she'll be able to fix these mistakes so to make sure that in the present day she does come to life. And so we do see Echo and River just continue to travel to different points in time to just get away from Adversary. But he keeps following them to every single time point they actually go through. Except then, when they think they can find a way to actually lose him by going through one more portal, he does throw a spear right through the portal as well. It doesn't get Echo, but it sure does get River. And so now River has been stabbed by this spear. But of course, the portal closed behind them, meaning that Adversary, for the time being, can't follow them. But when they arrive to a new time point, they come to find out the next person they're going to meet, the next ancestor for Echo they're going to meet, also had apparently the Phoenix inside of her. Now, when it comes to our new mysterious character, at first, she has no idea that Echo and River are behind her. Matter of fact, she did not hear when they had crashed behind her either. And the reason why? Because she is deaf like Echo is too. But like I said earlier, she's also holding the powers of the Phoenix inside of her. Now, with that being said, once she does turn around and you have Echo use sign language as a way to communicate with her, she's like, hey, don't worry, I'm here to help. I see your friend been stabbed. I close his wounds and will help him heal up. But I want to talk to you. And the reason why she wants to talk to Echo, because this is a huge moment. Because usually when the Phoenix finds someone to be the host of the Phoenix Force, it usually 9 out of 10 times choose just one person and that is it. Occasionally you do have stories where you have a lot of people be hosts at the same time. But in this case right now, in this time point, it's just this new mysterious woman. And the present day, it's just Echo. And so this is a huge moment to have two people who are hosts for the Phoenix Force meeting, but also they're from different time points in the timeline. Either way, she does tell Echo her name. And her name is actually, and I'm going to mispronounce this, please forgive me, but her name is Ahoyo Luwak, and I'm going to call her Luwak for the rest of the video, but she is, at this point in time, the current person holding the Phoenix Force. Now, this conversation is actually very important, and the reason why, because it honestly shows us the difference between Echo and also Luwak. And what I mean by that is, it really shows that Luwak knows how to fully control the powers of the Phoenix. But when it comes to Echo, she does not know. And we saw that in the earlier parts of this storyline. She does not know how to fully control the powers of the Phoenix. And it really shows right now because you have Luwak say, I could easily defeat you because you seem to be a weaker version of me. But then you have Echo say, I could easily burn down your entire village. And Luwak, she laughs at that. She's all like, see? you don't fully understand the powers of the Phoenix. If you did, you would know that when it comes to the powers of the Phoenix, it represents creation and destruction, which means that you may destroy this area, but I have the ability to bring it right back, resurrect it. And so she's kind of like, you don't fully understand what power you have in your hands right now. And unfortunately, that is your problem right there. And for Echo, she knows that Luwak is right. She does not fully understand the power she has. Now, you do have Luwak ask Echo, okay, so why are you here? And Echo kind of gives her a quick rundown about what's been happening so far in this series. And once Echo does that, you have Luwak say, have you lost your mind? You have the powers of the Phoenix. So much power in your hands that you should be able to actually defeat him. But here's the thing. Don't do it here in this reality. Do it in another reality. A reality that only you, the person who's holding the Phoenix inside of her, can actually reach. But once you do that and go into that reality, you'll be able to actually defeat him. And so you must do that if you want to get rid of him. Now, the last page of chapter 3 shows us a future battle to come. The problem is, though, this future battle takes place in chapter 5, which means that something completely different happens in chapter 4 that leads up to this moment right here. But the question is, though, what is that moment? Well, we'll find out soon, but now we jump into chapter 4. And so getting into the 4th chapter of this book, we actually do pick up with Echo right now. Now, this is Echo waking up in some kind of dream reality, a fake reality. And so now we're left to wonder, how in the world did we get to this moment right here? With that being said, though, we do see Echo right now kind of in this reality dating River. And that right there is actually very important because it tells us right off the bat in this reality, her and River were never on the run when it came to adversary. Instead, they were just two people who met and began to date one another and then move in together. And so they're kind of like your usual daily couple. Now, here's the thing I realize when it comes to this fake reality that Echo is currently living in, because while she is getting ready for work, River is watching the news. And while he is watching the news tells everybody in the city how bad the city has truly gotten. Like apparently it's going to fall apart very soon. But on top of that, when Echo leaves to go to work, her front door has so many different locks on it. And so with that, it's kind of like these small hints are trying to tell Echo, you need to wake up. Where you are right now is not your true reality, that this is a fake reality, and whoever put you in this reality is trying to kill you. You need to wake up right now. But then we actually pick up with River. Now, when we do see River right now waking up in the real world, except in the past. And of course, when he does wake up, he realized that Echo is no longer around. Now, remember, River was stabbed earlier, and so he was kind of sleeping to heal up. Either way, when he wakes up, he realized that Echo is gone, and he begins to freak out. And that is the moment he's confronted by her ancestor, Luwak. Now, remember, Luwak holds the powers of the Phoenix, but just in this point in time in Marvel Comics. Either way, it is Luwak telling River, hey, listen, Echo left to go fight against adversary. Now for River, that right there is not okay. He's kind of like, no, she'll lose. She'll be defeated by him. But then you have Luwak say, you don't know the true powers of the Phoenix, but on top of that, you're holding her back because of your past and your fears about what adversary could possibly do to you and what he did to you in the past. You also been holding her back as well. If you want to see her win, then you need to let go of your past and then begin to actually help her defeat adversary. And so that is the moment you have you have River say, you know what, you're right. Let me begin to actually help her defeat this guy before he does get the powers of the Phoenix. But getting back into that dream reality, we see Echo still living her daily life in this dream reality, not realizing that in this reality, everything is wrong, that this is not her life. This is a fake life that she was actually put in. Either way, we actually do see her right now kind of being some kind of artist. She has an art show going on in this dream reality. But when she talks to people, she really acts like this is her daily life. Like she's been doing this for years and years and years, and nothing's wrong about this, even though we know this is a fake reality. But while she's kind of talking to her staff points out a painting that she actually did. And that painting is Adversary. And that right there tells us that Adversary has her trapped in some kind of reality, trying to break her down in some kind of way. Either way, you didn't have her friend in this reality tell her, oh my God, something is happening across the street from us. What in the world is happening right now? And so we kind of find out that across the street right now, a building is on fire. Now, this is actually very important for two different reasons. The first is that it's kind of like a redo for Echo. And the reason why I say that, because remember, in the first chapter, when she was trying to be a hero after setting a building on fire, nobody wanted to go with her because they were scared of her, because they realized she is the reason why their building was on fire. But in this chapter, it's not her fault. And so it's kind of like a redo. You are now able to actually save people and be a hero. But while she's trying to be a hero, this leads into the second reason why this is so important. Because when she gets into that building and begins to save people's lives, that is the moment she gets these visions. And these visions are coming from the Phoenix. And so it's kind of like in this reality, you have Phoenix and Adversary fighting for the mind of Echo. You can see her right here because she says, I have no idea what's going on with these visions, but it seems like they're trying to tell me something. But either way, she does play hero and she does save people's lives, and she's actually able to get out of that building. And so we see that later on in the day, she does tell River about what she actually went through when it came to that burning building. Now, with that being said, we have to remember that these two are actually a couple in this reality. And so he's very concerned about what she actually did, because now she's telling her boyfriend, oh yeah, there was a building on fire and I decided to just run right in there and save people. And he's like, excuse me, you did what? You could have died. You are not a firefighter, because in this reality, she's not a crime fighter. She's not a hero. She's your regular day person. And so he has the right to be concerned about what she actually did. But while they're leaving dinner and about to head home, he says something to her. He says, I have to die. And this is actually very important. And the reason why it is so important, because we actually jump back to the real world where we see River in the past still talking to Luwak. And this is Luwak telling River, if you want to help out Echo to defeat Adversary, you need to go to the White Hot Room. Now, when it comes to the White Hot Room, it's kind of a very confusing concept. And the reason why, because over the years in Marvel Comics, they have done a lot of different things with the White Hot Room. But the last time I checked, apparently the White Hot Room was a form of the afterlife, meaning that after you die, you go to the White Hot Room. Now, when it comes to Marvel Comics, there are different versions of the afterlife, and the White Hot Room is just one of them. But on top of that, it does serve as a base for the Phoenix and her host. Either way, though, you have Luwak tell us this time that when it comes to the White Hot Room, it is actually a gateway to the afterlife. And so it's kind of like Marvel once again changing up things, saying like, no, it's not the afterlife. It's now just a gateway to the afterlife. Either way, you have Luwak to tell River, if you want to help out Echo, you have to kill yourself to go to that gateway so that you'll be able to actually help her defeat Adversary, because she took Adversary to the White Hot Room. And so he has to die and make his way to some form of afterlife, but go through the White Hot Room gateway. But then we actually jump back over to Forge. Now, when we do, we actually see Forge right now in the present day, still looking around the house of Rivers to hopefully find a way to help out Echo and River. Except while he is walking around, that is the moment River crashes back into the present day. But the problem is, though, he has been stabbed, which means that after he had stabbed himself, after Luwak told him what to do, his body was just transferred into the present day, but now he's dying. He's on the verge of actually going to the white hot room. Now, when Forge finds him, he's like, I have no idea what's going on. First off, you weren't here. Secondly, you appear out of nowhere, and then now I see you, you're stabbed, and it looks like you're about to die. And so you have Forge say, you know what? I do know some old magic tricks that could still help me to help you defeat Adversary and to hopefully help Echo as well. And so it seems like Forge is also going to find a way to enter into the white hot room to help out Echo and help out River fight against Adversary as we work our way to the final chapter. But then we jump back into that fake reality. And when we do, this tells us that right now, the battle between Phoenix and Adversary is not going so well, which means that Adversary is actually winning because right now they're both battling for control over Echo. And in this fake reality, Echo is kind of thinking about staying in this reality because in her mind, she's like, maybe River is right. Maybe I should just focus on my artwork. Maybe I should just focus on him and I's relationship. Like she's actually thinking about staying in this reality, which is something Adversary is trying to do. Break her down good enough so that he'll be able to actually absorb the powers of the Phoenix and get what he wants. And so as the fourth chapter ends, it kind of seems like we're about to see Echo lose to Adversary. And so as we get into the fifth chapter of the book, we actually do pick up with Riverwalk right now in the white hot room, sorry. But either way, this is him right now saying, you know what? I was scared of you in the past, but I'm no longer scared of you right now. Because when he does enter inside the white hot room, he does see Adversary right now doing something to the mind of Echo. And so this is him saying, I'm going to save her and then I'm going to help her stop you. And so getting back into the mind of Echo, we actually do see Adversary trying his best to push his fake reality even more on Echo so that she will break down even more so that he'll be able to actually get the powers of the Phoenix. Because what we see now in the fake reality is that when Echo wakes up next in that reality, she's now engaged to River. They're supposed to get married down the road. On top of that, her art shows are doing amazing. He's trying to give her this perfect life in this fake reality so that he's hoping that he'll be able to keep her in that fake reality just long enough so that he'll be able to break her down, so he'll be able to get the powers of the Phoenix. And that's why this is a very huge moment. But getting back over to the white hot room, we actually do see that you have River trying to fight against Adversary, and he is struggling a tad bit, but that is the moment you have Forge appear. Now, when Forge appears, he's like, yep, it is Adversary, and I know how to handle this guy up to a certain point, but we're going to need the help of the Phoenix if we're going to actually beat him and get out of here as well. And so this is Forge now jumping into the battle. But you have to remember, the reason why Forge knows him so well, Adversary, because when Forge first appeared in X-Men comics, his first few stories were really focusing on the idea of him fighting against Adversary. It was kind of giving Forge his own particular bad guy to actually deal with. Either way, it's now Forge and River working together to actually defeat Adversary. But then you have Echo realize that she's in a fake reality. Now, the way she does realize this is because back in the white hot room, River talked to her. Even though she's unconscious, he's kind of like, hey, you have to wake up. You have to remember who you are. Like, please wake up. And so with him doing that in the fake reality, it begins to change so much that Echo realized, wait, this is not real. On top of that, I know who I am. I am Echo. I'm not just a vessel for the Phoenix. And so with her realizing that, she's kind of like, okay, it's time for me to go. It's time for me to wake up and actually help Forge and help out River to fight against Adversary. And so she wakes up and she is ready to go for one final battle against Adversary. Now, even though you do have Echo waking up and being able to help out Forge and also River fight against Adversary, Adversary is still a very strong opponent. He does give them an actual challenge here. And matter of fact, he realized that because Forge and River are here right now helping out the Phoenix, it's honestly not a fair fight for him. And so what he tries to do is try to bring out the worst fears for Forge and also River. And for example, for River, it is his mother. And for Forge, it is Storm. Now, the reason why it is Storm goes all the way back to the early days of Uncanny X-Men, which honestly, we do not have the time to sit here and talk about that story right there. Maybe one day. Either way, though, you still have Adversary trying to use the worst nightmares of Forge and River. But luckily, you have Echo come in with the powers of the Phoenix and say, no, that is not going to happen. And matter of fact, it's time to change the battleground, meaning that it's time for you and I to have one last final battle between you and me, not Forge and River, just you and me. And so this leads into the problem I had with the story. And what I mean by that is you can tell the writer kind of just played it really loose here because they were trying to wrap up the story. Because you have River use his powers once again to open up a portal. Now remember, originally he can only open a portal that can go back in time to an ancestor of the person that he's trying to help. But in this case, he's able to open up a portal so that Echo and Adversary can have their last battle at the very beginning of time. Which honestly, I'm kind of like, wait, huh? But then on top of that, Phoenix is able to just easily defeat Adversary in like 5 seconds. She's like, bam, done. You're gone forever. So we can now fix everything you did to the timeline, and Forge, me, and River can go back home. Like literally, it's just that fast. They go back to the beginning of time, and then you have her defeat Adversary. She comes back and tells River, don't worry, the timeline has been repaired, and we can all go back home like none of this had actually happened. And it's kind of like, that's a huge letdown for this story. And honestly, the story does wrap up right after that moment right there. Because right after that, you didn't have Echo use the powers of the Phoenix as a way to heal up River. Because remember, earlier he stabbed himself as a way to enter the white hot room, the gate to the afterlife. And so she has to heal him up before he actually dies and go to the afterlife. And once she heals him up, they're able to go back to the present day. Now, after that, you didn't have Forge leave. And apparently her and Forge came to an agreement that he and other fellow X-Men are going to help her kind of control the powers of the Phoenix, which honestly, I'm kind of like, why? Because no offense to the X-Men, I love the X-Men, but no one truly had full control of the Phoenix powers. Either way, though, they're kind of like, hey, we're going to help you get better at being the Phoenix. I'm like, no, you will not. But then after that, you didn't have River and her kind of, I guess, establish some kind of relationship. And she is going to stay with him at his house for the time being. And so this is where the story actually ends. That's why I say it's a good story, but the ending was so rushed. And it felt like they kind of ran ideas. And they were like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and just wrap it up right now, because if we don't, we had to add more BS in it, and that will be a 6th issue for no reason. Either way though, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.